Could you believe that some people still believe that people sleep on trees in Africa? Could you believe that? Yes. Some people still believe that. Because, usually when foreigners come to Africa, they don't want to live in our cities. They don't want to take photographs from our cities. They go to the village, the deepest part of the villages where people are really having it a struggle. And those are the kind of pictures they take. And to them, they think that is real Africa. There is one thing that I'm not quite happy about. Whenever they want to portray Africa in an international scene, usually they bring animals, like they bring lions, they bring elephants, to represent something like a jungle. And it really gets on my nerves. There are positive things happening in Africa. Yesterday, for instance, I went to buy a card at Camden, and I wanted to get an African card. And could you believe that all the African cards I got, I saw elephant, tiger, giraffe. Can this be the representation of Africa?
We are getting fed with so many stuff coming from the West that, we tend to hate ourselves. We tend to hate ourselves because truth is, to get, for example, if something is happening in Gabon or in Zimbabwe, the images we are getting from those events are not even coming from African TVs. They are directly coming from European TVs, and they dispatch it to African TVs. So actually, we are not even covering Africa ourselves in terms of showing Africa to Africans. That's not the Africans showing Africa to Africans. That's Europeans showing Africa to Africans. And whenever you're watching the news, the process is really simple. First, they're going to show you, for example, let's say it's Senegal, they're going to show you the Senegalese president. Next thing, they're going to move showing you European stuff. Like the EU did this, did that, such and such happened in France and stuff. And the next thing, they're going to go on Africa. And all the images of Africa, the footage are always the same. Okay, desert, a hut, a donkey running, and then they will show you images of either some men having guns or just some woman and some kids starving. And next thing, you can be sure the next person they're going to interview is a white person working for a humanitarian organization.
All I would say is that they should portray Africa as it really is. To see civil wars in Africa is not really bad, because if there are civil wars, they must be talked about. But then what about the other things that are happening in Africa? What about the other positives? What about the other side of Africa? The people, what they stand for. I know that news, they say if a dog bites a man, it's not news. If a man bites a dog, that is news. So I know that the TV guys, they love bad news, because then it gets ratings. But really, as much as you talk about the negative, there should be a balance.
London is good, fine. But there are some places where I saw filth in London, on the street of London. And I said, man, but whenever they want to portray London, they take shots like from the Trafalgar Square, London Bridge, those are the things that they portray to represent London. And they show your buses, But there are other cars, there are some weird cars on your street as well. But you don't show it.
They have a concept before, and they want to put the people, all the Africans, with all these cultures, with all these different ways of thinking and living and identities in the same frames. And this could be a problem for the both sides, Africans and the Westerns.
Why for the Africans?
Because I said they are interested to be a part of the media, and so they will have to enter these frames, and so they will lose their real identity and real makeup.
The West still sees Africa as sort of like a child. So if you look at all the mainstream media, when they reference Africa, they'll say, imagine Africa, the new discovery. And that sort of says, like Africa has some growing up to do, which we do in some regards. But it's a perception that's so ingrained into the West's mind that if you're having a conversation with someone from the West, sometimes they're actually talking down to you. And it gets frustrating.
They're losing the knowledge of a real and natural thing. Yeah. Because now they are knowing what they want to know. They want to know the Africans like this. So okay, we are coming and we will show and perform like this, but we are not like this.
Back at home, we watch more of the Western channels than the home channels. We like watching BBC, MTV, and CNN a lot, more than the way we watch the channels at home. So I think it's a bad publicity for Africa. And on the other hand, in Africa, the image we have of the West, because of the TV and the films, which they forget is being acted. Yeah, they forget that it's drama. So when we get these films and the luxurious life, we like think that's the promised land.
People really think that.
People really think that. People really think that to be civilized, you have to maybe dress like a white, speak a bit like a white, and walk like a white, and yeah.
I think that a lot of, as a young person as well, all we really get to know, like in school and growing up, is we learn about slavery, and that's about it, really, in history. So it's like there's so much more of Africa, I think we don't get to really see the beauty of the country, the youth culture, the music side of it. We get like appeals on TV for starving children, which obviously that's a good thing. But it's like we need to see a balance, I think, on our TV to kind of strengthen the way that Africa's looked at in general, especially for people that live in the UK that are from Africa as well. Imagining, if I came straight from there and lived here, I think I'd be quite heartbroken to see how Africa's shown and how it's perceived by people.
Honestly, and I don't know if it is right for me to say this on camera, but if I have to be truthful, I think there is a lot of negative propaganda about the heartland. I know we Africans are the problem, in a way.
Why?
I just think we are the problem because we don't do anything about that. We don't try to sell what we have. Like my country used to be Africa in miniature. We are Cameroon, we are having about 250 ethnic tribes. But it's the most culturally diverse area in the world. It's just a small triangle, but you have more than 250 ethnic tribes, and it's great. We've got, let me say, all races in Africa. Yeah, they say the Bantu people originated somewhere around the Cameroon-Nigerian border. But we don't talk about that on our national TVs. And I think we too are the problem.
It's a very complex issue to deal with, simply because we've been taught that anything that comes from the white man's country is good. For an African, that is a very bad thing that we need to get rid of. So, for instance, if I come and I tell someone that I bought my shoe from London, he will look at it and look at it again. But the same thing, if you tell him that a Ghanaian man made it, he will look at it and say, then it is fake.
A lot of people still want to be heard. They want the West to listen to what Africa is trying to say. And that's not just talking about AIDS, famine, or floods, but there are other things which are happening, which don't always make the news, but are happening in any case. It's not necessarily good news for the West to consume on TV, but some of that will come out in one of the pieces we're working on, because one of the pieces is actually getting a quote from each country as to what's going on in your country. That's not necessarily flooding, AIDS, or the usual stuff that's reported.